Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast is all about our journey into the woods of ourselves, getting to know who we are, where we are, and where we're going in life, so that we can create the life that we want to live. It's about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. It's also about mindset. Our beliefs are such an important part of this journey. And there are so many ways for us to change our mindset so that we can more easily live a life of expansive joy. This podcast is also about going literally into the woods and spending time in nature, and how that can help us on our own personal journey of self-knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 378. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm going to talk about how to balance your hobbies when you're a multi-passionate person. What to do when there are so many things that you love doing and you don't have enough time to do them all. How do you balance all of your hobbies and interests? How do you enjoy all of your multiple hobbies and interests without burning out? Sometimes I get so overzealous in signing up for things that my calendar gets so full of great, fun, exciting stuff, but I no longer have the energy to enjoy them. So that's what today's episode is about. In the meantime, I would like to invite you to check out the Beauteous Me podcast. If you head over to hollywharton.com/beauty, that will redirect you to the Beauteous Me podcast, where I was a guest last Friday, I think it was that it came out. So I spoke with Jamily Whitfield about blocks and overcoming blocks to your success. It was a really enjoyable conversation about mindset and how to release the blocks to achieving our goals. So that's hollywharton.com/beauty, and I will link to that in the show notes as well, so you can find it there. Also, before I get into this week's topic, I wanted to share with you some blog posts I have written and published recently. I wrote one on get outdoors to improve time management and reduce stress. And this is kind of an add-on from one of my most popular blog posts from all time. It was one of the first blog posts I wrote on this website about how to improve time management and reduce stress. And I really believe that getting outdoors and doing outdoors activities is one of the biggest factors in helping me manage stress and also improve my time management and focus. So that's a great blog post. Also did one that was a request from a listener and friend called Hiking in Mud, Top Tips and Best Shoes for Running and Hiking Through Mud. We are now entering into the mud season. I was kind of slipping and sliding on my run this morning and ran through some very deep puddles last week as well. And I slid down an Iron Age hill for it last Friday. So don't do what I did and prepare in advance when you know it's going to be muddy and read my blog post. I also did a post called The Best Backpacks for Hiking and Travel. And that was a very fun post to put together where I list most, but not all of the backpacks that I own. I have a problem with backpacks. I own too many of them. So I list all of them, what I use them for, why I think you don't need all the backpacks that I have, and what you might need. But I find it really useful to see examples of what other people have, not just in terms of backpacks, because again, I don't need an excuse to buy a backpack, but like other types of products. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But that is my backpack post. I also did another one on trips for traveling alone, solo female travel tips. Been thinking a lot about solo female travel. And a lot of women are really afraid to go off and travel on their own and have their own adventures. And so I would really like to encourage everyone listening to this, but also especially women, to get out there and travel, whether it's near to home or further abroad. Next, allergic to social media. Here's what to do. Allergic to social media is one of the top searches that people use to arrive at my website. And I've written a lot about this in the past. But this is kind of a roundup post where I gathered together a bunch of podcast episodes and blog posts that I've written on the topic. Finally, running the Downs Link, how to plan and crew a Downs Link adventure. I was so excited to post this. So as you may know, I walked the Downs Link in, I think it was 2016 or 2017, and wrote a book about it. And I will be updating that book possibly next year. But it's a trail that I really, really enjoy. It's 37.5 miles, but but it's been rerouted a little bit since then, so it ended up being about 60 kilometers. And I did it in 3 days and made a whole outing of it and stayed overnight at places. And then last Sunday, a couple Sundays ago now, my husband ran it all in one day. It was this weekend that we had terrible weather. It was like a storm. It was pouring rain the entire day. It was cold. It was miserable. He started running at 9 in the morning and finished at 5:30 in the afternoon. And I'm so proud of him. And I crewed for him. So I met him at 3 different points along the way, filled up his water bottles, gave him new gels, took his old gel trash, and sent him on his way. And so the blog post is about how to plan to run the Downs Link and how to help someone run the Downs Link. So all the checklist of all the little things you need to bring and questions you need to ask to make sure they're okay. I really loved writing that post because I love helping people to see these trails in different ways. So I walked the trail in 3 days. I would like to walk it in 1 day and see how that goes. I know walking it in 3 days was really challenging for me back when I did it, but I have now learned not to walk in the summer. And I think if I go either in the winter or early spring, I think it is doable for me to walk it all in 1 day. If my husband could run it in a day, I think I can walk it. And it's probably going to be one of the things that I walk as I plan for my 2 walking ultras that I'm doing next year. So I've got a 50K and a 100K. So sounds perfect to me. So those are my blog posts. And let's get into today's topic. How to balance your hobbies when you're a multi-passionate person. This has been something that's been on my mind a lot lately as I put together my yearly planner and as I get ready to do my own yearly planning myself, which I usually do at the end of October. Super excited to release this planner, and you'll hear more about it probably at the beginning of November. It should be ready. I took my time requesting that my cover designer start working on it, so we're not going to be able to work on it until the end of October. But the interior is already designed and lined out, and I'm super, super excited to share this with you. So, planner, that will be coming soon. In the meantime, how to balance your hobbies when you're a multi-passionate person. I have 3 main hobbies, physical fitness activities that I partake of. Running, trail running now. Apparently I'm getting into that. Hiking, backpacking, camping, that kind of thing. I lump those all 3 into one category. And then kickboxing, which I still love. How do I balance all this? I'm not at a point where I can work out twice a day yet. I haven't reached that level of fitness. I really want to so that I can fit more things into my day. But in the meantime, I've been doing one thing a day and then having some days off. So I usually end up working out 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And that's what I've been capable of doing. But I find it really hard to balance because I've only been going to kickboxing twice a week. I really would like to step that up and go 3 times a week. I've only been running twice a week. I would really like to step that up to 3 times a week. Hiking, it's kind of thing that's going to happen on special occasions, like when I have an outdoors course or when I go camping or that kind of thing. I'm really struggling to fit all this in, and I have some ambitious goals for myself in all of those areas next year, and I really want to be able to prepare for them. So that's why I've been thinking about this a lot. It's like, how am I going to fit all this in my schedule? I have to run a business. I have client work to do, and that stuff is super, super important. My hobbies are an extra. I'm not at a place where I can make them the focus of my life. Now, yes, when I go and I do a day trip like I did last Friday and I visit the hill forts and that's research for a blog post, that's kind of work because it will give me a blog post once I'm finished with it, but it's also really a hobby. So just really struggling to think about how I'm going to fit all this into my schedule. And I know this will all become more clear once I do my planning process and once I get my year scheduled for next year. But in the meantime, I've got this on my mind. So here's how I plan to do this. Because I have these 3 big things that I love. And of course, writing is another thing that I love, but that's also my business rather than my hobby. But there are all these other things that pop up from time to time, and I think, oh, I would love to do that, whether it's like a workshop or a weekend retreat or a extended course. I keep coming across things that I think, oh, I would really love to learn that, or I'd really love to do that, and I just don't have the time. So I'm starting to say no to things because I just don't have the time to do them all. So, how to balance your hobbies? Start out by making a list. So, I've got my list of kind of non-negotiables or must-haves, and my non-negotiables are trail running, kickboxing, and outdoor stuff. So by outdoor stuff, I mean like hiking, camping, backpacking. Again, I lump those all into one category, but that's different from my running because running requires a different kind of training. So those are my 3 non-negotiables. My nice to haves. Nice to haves, it's hard to delegate things to this list because I've got things like my ethnobotany course next year, which is like a 9-month program, which is going to be quite intense. I think it's 9 weekends throughout the year, plus a lot of work that we've got to do at home in between the weekends. I'm not making any progress on my druid stuff, and I would like to. Maybe it's just not the time yet, but I've got that. That is important to me, but it's not a non-negotiable. It's been delegated to nice to have. And so many other little one-off workshops that I keep coming across. I also have my plant spirit healing apprenticeship, kind of the second level of that, which was supposed to happen this year. It got canceled. I haven't heard anything about it for next year, and I'm kind of afraid I'm going to hear about it when it's too late and I've already got my calendar booked. But there we are. And then we've got activities that you can declutter from your life. So all the shoulds. So anything extra that's not really juicy or exciting to you, it's the stuff that you feel like you should do. So make a list with those 3 separate categories, the non-negotiables, the nice-to-haves, and the shoulds, and stuff that you can declutter. I think that's really important to take an honest look at your life and your activities and your hobbies and see what's important to you. So I talked last week in episode 377 about how to prioritize your hobbies and how to make your hobbies a priority in your life to make sure that you do them. But this is more about prioritizing amongst your hobbies. So out of all of your hobbies, which ones are the most important? Which ones are great, but you can do without? And I have so many hobbies that are like nice to haves, like painting. I used to paint all the time. I love painting. I haven't painted in years. I miss it. I really miss that form of creative expression, but I just don't have time. So something has to kind of fall into that secondary hobby group. I would say it's probably, unless you're retired and you have like all the time in the world, you probably won't be able to handle more than 3 non-negotiables, must-haves, or primary hobbies. Most people probably won't even be able to handle that many, depending on what your lifestyle is like. If you've got kids, you've got a family, you're going to have less time. Maybe you need to pick one that's non-negotiable. You will know what your life is like, and you will know what your lifestyle can handle, and you can know what your energy levels can handle. Because some people love being busy all the time. I have a lot of friends that were like always super active in university, in all the clubs, and they were doing all the stuff. And it just sounded so exhausting to me. I really need some time during each day and during each week where I can rest and relax and just not worry about having tons of stuff to do every single minute. So know what your energy levels are like. Know what you can do. And again, this is going to be different for everyone. Next, it might be worth writing down alongside each hobby or activity why that hobby or activity is important to you. What does it give you? How does it bring you joy? And what do you want to get out of doing them? So for me, let's look at trail running because that's a fairly new thing that I've gotten back into. What does it give me? For one, it gives me better performance in my hiking and my kickboxing, which is a really interesting and pleasant unintended effect. That's really good. It also gives me that feeling of just stretching myself and stretching my limits, and I know that helps me stretch my limits in other areas of my life. How does it bring me joy? It just makes me feel so good, like physically, and the endorphins from running. Those things are good. This morning, I went out for a run. I only intended to run, about 40 minutes, and I ended up doing 8 kilometers. I didn't plan to do that much, but it felt so good, and I'm so glad I did because I just felt fantastic afterwards. What do I want to get out of doing them? I want to stretch myself and see where I can go. I want to start running races, not because I want to work on my time, but just because I want to have that kind of framework of having an official event as a milestone to train for, because I think that will give me structure to my running and to my training. So that's that. What goals do I have? What goals do you have for each of your hobbies or interests or activities? So for me, with my walking, I've got a couple of long distance trails that I want to do next year. And I want to kind of take that to the next level by camping rather than staying at B&Bs. So that's my goal for my walking next year. I also have those 2 ultras that I'm doing next year. I'm doing a 50K and a 100K. Those are my goals for walking. Running, I really want to do a half marathon and a marathon next year. Kickboxing, I've still got my black belt waiting. I don't know when we're going to be able to do that kind of grading. Might be next year, might be the following year, but that's, if I can do it next year, I absolutely will. And what do you want to get out of doing them? What do you want to get out of doing each of these activities? Next, ask yourself, are there any upcoming events that you need to plan for or train for? So for like me, it's with the walking ultras, the half marathon and marathon, the kickboxing grading. Those are things that only happen certain times of the year. In Britain, there are tons of marathons, running events, ultra walking things, tons and tons of these events. So I could plan them for any time of the year, but those are things that I need to get in my calendar, pay for them, and train for them. So if you have any events like that, you need to make sure that you get them into the calendar and that you have a training plan for them. Then you need to prioritize your non-negotiables. Make sure that they get in the calendar and make sure that you have the time and the space to engage in them, to partake of them. Next, when you're planning your calendar, see if you can fit in any of your nice-to-haves. Do you have time to do some of those kind of secondary hobbies or activities? And then next, make sure that you have a list for all of your nice-to-haves that don't fit. So I have a list in Evernote of all of the courses, workshops, and retreats that I want to do so that I don't forget them. So there's so many things that I see that I think, wow, that would be amazing. And so I'll copy and paste the link into this Evernote page, and I've just got them there. So you can consult this list whenever you have spare time or money for something new, and you can ensure yourself that you won't forget about them. So like the other day I was going running and I passed by this sign for this woman that does basket weaving classes in my area. I've had this weird obsession with doing basket weaving all year, really, because there's this woman I've been following on Instagram that's kind of in my area that does basket weaving, and then I found this woman. So I went on her website and I looked at the dates and I was like, wow, that would be so much fun. But I don't really have time to do basket weaving, so I popped the link into my Evernote. Wilderness Quest. I've been wanting to do one of those for a few years now. That link is in there. Other bushcraft courses. Herbal healing and remedies. I've been wanting to do a ton of those kinds of courses. I've located several that I'm really interested in. Those are on the list. So make that list of all the courses and workshops and retreats and all the stuff that you want to do so that you can have them as a kind of menu to choose from when you have some spare time. And you can also add things that aren't formal events, but like painting. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to forget that I enjoy painting, but I can add that in there as well. Like maybe I'll have a weekend coming up soon, I don't know when, where I have nothing to do and I want to take some time off from the computer, and maybe I could pull out my art stuff and paint. That would probably be really good for my brain because I've been spending most of my weekends doing workation weekends and writing and working on my projects. And I think painting would probably be very good for my brain. So that's another thing you can add to your kind of menu of activities. And then go into planning your year. So again, I have this planner that I use. I'll be making that available in a couple weeks. Plan your year. I usually print out, and I'll include this in the planner, but I've got a 1-page yearly planner calendar, and I just highlight it with different colors, and I color code. Like ethnobotany course is green, my workations are purple, and I just color code which weekends I have stuff and which weekends are free. So the races are going to go in there. All the stuff that is already planned is going to go in there. And add any upcoming events. So any, like my kickboxing grading, my races, my ultras, all that stuff is going to go in there. Next, plan your weeks and months. Like look at each week and each month. How can you fit your non-negotiable or primary hobbies in there? So for me, like I said, I've been going to kickboxing twice a week, been running twice a week. I'd like to step that up, but it hasn't happened yet. See what you can fit in. And then reevaluate your priorities on a regular basis because they will change as your life changes and as your interests change. So like for me, as I approach my kickboxing grading, that's going to become my number one priority because I will be preparing for that very big very physically challenging event. When my walking ultras are approaching, I'm going to be focused on training for those because that's a big thing that I don't want to suffer through. I want to really enjoy it. When any of my running events come up, same thing, I'm going to be focused on that. So prioritize your hobbies or activities based on these events, which again will change based on anything that you've got planned. Next, remove distractions. So try to clear up your calendar as much as you can. Reduce procrastination, reduce your time-wasting activities, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's watching the news, maybe it's watching television, maybe it's scrolling endlessly through social media. Figure out how you waste time and try not to. Just remind yourself that all the time that you waste by scrolling through social media or watching the news or whatever your time wasters are could be time spent on your hobbies. So for me in the past, this has just been a matter of training my brain to notice when I'm doing these things and just make myself stop and make a different decision. And I found that to be really, really like a muscle that you train over time. And in the beginning, it was really hard to kind of pull myself away from these things. But soon it became easy and I would recognize what I was doing and I would just stop because I realized that wasn't how I wanted to be spending my time and I could be spending it doing much more interesting things. So as you're removing distractions, it's also good to declutter your calendar. So get rid of anything that's a should that you really don't have to do. Learn how to say no to things, even if they're interesting. And remember that just because someone invites you to do something doesn't mean you have to say yes. However, be aware that if you keep saying no, no, no to your friends might distance themselves from you if you keep saying no without giving a reason. So if you're training for an event and that's going to be your focus for the next couple months, be sure to say that. Be sure to try to connect with them in other ways if that's important to you, but don't just shut them out of your life. Be aware that you need to give a reason for why you keep turning them down. But it's okay to say no, so know that as well. So make your plan for the new year, make your plan for the upcoming months, and check in with yourself as you go along. So be aware that even though you love these things, you might burn out from doing the things that you love. Burnout isn't always from doing things that you dislike. It doesn't always happen when you've got a job that you hate or something else that's unpleasant. You can burn out from doing all the things that you love. So just be aware and check in with yourself on a regular basis and make sure that you are enjoying your multiple hobbies and interests and that you've still got the energy to keep up with them. And reevaluate. Again, reevaluate your priorities, reevaluate how much time you have to enjoy these hobbies, and reevaluate your daily, weekly, monthly schedule and see how it fits for you because life changes, our priorities change, and our interests change as well. So that is all for now. I hope you found this episode interesting and useful. Please drop me a line and let me know what you thought. You can email me at holly@hollywharton or find me online and get in touch there. Also love to hear from you if you have any topics or suggestions for topics for this podcast or for any blog posts. I really, really enjoy it when people send me ideas because I know what questions you have that I might not have or that maybe I had years ago and forgot it was a question. Like the hiking in mud thing. Like I'm used to hiking in mud. And I really enjoyed that because it made me think about what are my mud strategies and what happens when I don't employ them and I end up sledding down a hill covered with mud. Yeah, so I find it really, really useful to get topics from people. I have recently decided to start inviting more guests on the show. So again, not really interview style episodes, but kind of conversations like I've been doing with Joanna. And I'm really, really looking forward to this. So I've got 2 very interesting people coming up, and I've got several more people that I invited that haven't yet booked in, but I'm really, really looking forward to sharing their story with you and to sharing the conversations with you. So that is all for now. Remember to visit hollywharton.com/378 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.